Every morning, at exactly the same time, an old man stood near the small bus stop on Maple Street. He wore a clean but faded coat and held a simple walking stick in his hand. He did not sell anything. He did not ask for help. He only smiled. He smiled at people rushing to work, at tired students, at mothers holding their children's hands. Most people did not stop. Some noticed him. A few smiled back. But every day, without fail, the man was there. No one really knew his name. People called him the Smiling Man. Some thought he was lonely. Some thought he was strange. A few believed he was kind. Children liked him the most. When they passed by, he would bend slightly and smile at them with warm eyes. His smile was not loud or wide. It was soft, calm, as if he understood something about life that others had forgotten. Among the people who passed him every day was a young woman named Clara. She worked at a nearby office and was always in a hurry. Her mornings were filled with stress, unread messages, and worries about work. She noticed the old man often, but she never smiled back. She thought smiling at strangers was pointless. Life was serious. There was no time for small things. One rainy morning, Clara missed her bus. She stood at the stop, annoyed and tired, when she noticed the old man standing nearby, as always. Rain fell softly and people hurried past them. The old man looked at her and smiled. This time she could not look away. Something about his smile felt peaceful. Without thinking, she smiled back. The old man nodded gently, as if that small moment mattered. Clara felt something strange in her chest. It was light, warm. When the bus arrived, she stepped on with a calmer heart. That day, her work felt easier. Her stress felt lighter. She did not understand why, but the smile stayed with her. Days passed, and Clara began to notice the smiling man more. She started smiling back every morning. Sometimes she would say, "Good morning." He never spoke much. He only smiled and nodded. But somehow those few seconds became the best part of her day. She began to wonder who he was and why he did what he did. One afternoon, Clara stayed late at work. When she walked past the bus stop, she saw the old man sitting alone on a bench. He looked tired. His smile was still there, but softer than usual. Without planning it, Clara stopped and asked if he was okay. The man looked surprised, then smiled and nodded again. They sat in silence for a while. Then, slowly, the man spoke. His voice was quiet and gentle. He told her that he used to be a teacher. He taught children for many years. He said he learned something important during his life, that everyone carries a heavy story inside, even when they do not show it. He told her that after losing his wife, he felt invisible. People walked past him as if he did not exist. One day, he smiled at a stranger, and the stranger smiled back. That moment reminded him that he was still alive, that he still mattered. From that day on, he decided to smile at strangers, not to change the world, but to remind people they were seen. Clara listened quietly. She felt tears in her eyes. She thought about her own life, how often she rushed past people, how often she forgot to look up. The old man stood up slowly, smiled once more, and said, "Sometimes a smile is the only kindness someone receives all day." The next morning, the old man was not at the bus stop. Clara waited. She looked around. He did not come. The next day, he was still not there. Days passed, and the bus stop felt empty without him. Clara felt a strange sadness, like she had lost something important. 1 week later, Clara saw a small note taped to the bench. It was written in simple handwriting. It said, "Thank you for smiling back. Keep going." Clara held the note tightly. She understood. From that day on, Clara began to smile at strangers, at the bus stop, at work, at the store. Some ignored her, some smiled back, and sometimes she saw the same lightness in their eyes that she once felt. The smiling man never returned, but his kindness stayed. It moved quietly from one person to another, like a soft light passing through the crowd, and Clara knew that even small actions, done gently and daily, can leave a deep mark on the world. After finding the note on the bench, Clara kept it in her bag. She read it every morning before leaving home. The words were simple, but they reminded her to slow down. She began to notice things she had ignored before: the sound of birds in the early hours, the way sunlight touched the buildings, the tired faces around her. And every time she smiled at someone, she wondered if the smiling man had once stood in that same place, doing the same thing. At work, Clara changed too. She listened more. She stopped rushing people when they spoke. She realized how many of her coworkers were carrying quiet struggles. One colleague was worried about his sick father. Another felt lonely in a new city. Clara did not solve their problems, but she listened, she smiled, and often that was enough to make the day feel lighter. One afternoon, Clara saw a young boy sitting alone near the bus stop. His shoulders were slumped and his eyes were fixed on the ground. People passed by without noticing him. Clara remembered the old man's words. She walked closer and smiled at the boy. At first, he looked confused. Then, slowly, he smiled back. It was a small smile, but it felt important. His mother soon arrived, and the boy left, still smiling. Clara felt warmth in her chest. Weeks passed, and the bus stop became a place of quiet kindness. Clara noticed others smiling more often, too. A tired office worker nodded at her. An elderly woman smiled and waved. It was as if the old man's presence had left a gentle echo behind. Even though he was gone, his kindness had not disappeared. One evening, Clara sat alone at the bus stop, watching the sky turn soft shades of orange and gray. She thought about the smiling man and wished she had learned his name. She wished she had thanked him properly. But then she realized something important. He had never asked for thanks. He had only wanted people to see each other. Clara thought about her own fears, how she used to believe that small gestures did not matter, how she once thought kindness had to be loud or dramatic to be meaningful. Now she knew better. Kindness could be quiet. It could be simple. It could be as small as a smile shared between strangers. On a cold morning in winter, Clara brought extra gloves with her. She gave them to a man waiting at the bus stop. He looked surprised, then deeply thankful. His smile reminded her of the old man's smile, calm, gentle, real. She realized that kindness does not disappear when one person is gone. It only waits for someone else to carry it forward. Years later, Clara became a manager at her office. People described her as patient and kind. She still worked hard, but she no longer believed that life was only about deadlines and success. She believed in moments, in connections, in the quiet ways people help each other survive difficult days. Sometimes, new employees asked her why she always smiled, even during stressful times. Clara would simply say, "You never know who needs it." She never told them about the old man. Some stories are not meant to be explained. They are meant to be lived. One spring morning, Clara saw a familiar scene. An elderly man stood near the bus stop, smiling at people as they passed. For a moment, her heart skipped. He was not the same man, but the smile was similar, soft, understanding. Clara smiled back, feeling tears in her eyes. She knew then that the kindness had found a new home. Life continued, as it always does. People rushed, some ignored each other, some smiled, and in those small moments of connection, the world felt a little less heavy. Clara understood that the smiling man had never been trying to stand out. He had been trying to blend kindness into everyday life. And so, the story of the man who smiled at strangers did not end with him. It lived on in Clara.
It lived on in the boy at the bus stop. It lived on in every quiet smile shared between people who may never meet again. Because sometimes the simplest actions carry the deepest meaning, and sometimes a smile is enough to remind someone that they are not alone.